I started at McNees July 7th, 1980. Now I know you're all thinking, oh my God, she must have been 10 years old when she started here, because a fresh face. But I was actually 21. I remember my first day. I started in central photocopy, wore 2-inch heels, came to regret it at the end of the day, cried, because my feet hurt so bad, and I didn't get all my work done in the basket, so I thought I was going to be fired. But 30 years later, I'm still here. I just love it. I mean, it's like a family. I was welcomed that first day with open arms, and I have felt that in the 30 years that I've been here. It's a great. I can't say more than good things about it. It's a great place to work. They're like family, and I'm just glad that I could be a part of the 75th anniversary and say congratulations, and hope that I'm still a part of it in another 15 years. I was going to say another 75, but I won't be around then, but
When I joined the firm, there were about 60 attorneys, and today we have 130. I plan to be around for a while, so I hope to see even more growth as we continue into the future. And a lot of businesses talk about they treat their employees like family, but I would say McNees does it better than most. About 9 years ago, my mother's health was declining rapidly, and I left on a number of afternoons to drive 2 hours to visit with her, and the only questions I was ever asked was, how's your mom doing, and what can we do to lighten your load so that you can continue those visits? And that's something I will never forget, that opportunity to do that.
In 1998, July, I was attending an internet conference in San Francisco, and I ran into the chair of the IP group at McNees, Frank Miles, out there. Frank and I had lunch at the hotel, and Frank had told me that McNees had just hired 2 patent attorneys to start the patent group at McNees. And my comment to Frank was, gee, Frank, my feelings are hurt that you didn't contact me about starting the patent group. And Frank's comment to me was, gee, I didn't think you were interested in coming back to McNees. My comment in return was, how would you know if you don't ask? Well, Frank then said to me, he said, well, if anything should change, I'll make sure I talk to you again. And lo and behold, about 6 months later, I received a phone call from Frank, and he asked me if I was still interested in returning to McNees. And without getting into the gory details, apparently the senior attorney that they'd hired from, trying to remember the name of the firm now, but the senior attorney had failed to tell his wife that they were moving from Philadelphia to Harrisburg. And of course, she objected to that. And so, in the interest of familial relations, he wound up and she wound up staying in Philadelphia, which created the opening. And that's basically how I returned here and helped get the patent group started.
One of my first memories when I first came here, they used to they had the switchboard open on Saturdays, and the secretaries, some of the secretaries took turns covering the switchboard in the morning. And the first time I covered it, I had my son with me, who was about 5 years old at the time, and I'm sitting at the switchboard, and who gets off the elevator but Mr. Nurick Sr. And he came up to the desk and introduced himself and asked me my name and talked to my son and told me who he was, and he was always such a gentleman. And then he offered to get me coffee, to go get coffee for me. I mean, this is Mr. Nurick.
As in McNees Wallace and
yes.
Nurick?
And anytime he saw someone in the elevator or in the hallway, I don't care who you were, if you were an attorney, secretary, no matter who you were, he always wanted to know who you were and what your job in the firm was. And that was one of my earliest memories of McNees, and I'll never forget that.
many people don't know this, but Mr. McNees was the uncle of Jimmy Stewart, the actor. And Jimmy Stewart and Mr. McNees were very, very close. And my father used to tell stories about Jimmy Stewart coming to the office and how excited the staff would be when he would come.
I've been on board for about 3.5 years, and I was a client for 15 years. And liked the firm so much that when they came to me with an offer to come down and help with this little niche of this auto dealer practice group, I decided I would take the plunge and come down and join the folks. So it was kind of fun when I first came here to interview, because most of the people felt that it was highly unfair that I should be interviewing them because I was the client coming, to work here, and knew most people as I worked my way through the firm. So, and the firm has grown over the years. In those 15 years, it's probably, maybe doubled or quadrupled in size since the early 90s when I first came on board. So, into the car dealer world, we're working with the outside client, PAA. So, that's always been a lot of fun, to see that transition and to see all those people grow and all the things that happen. So over the course of 20 years now that I've been around in the industry and working with McNees, first as a client and now on board, you see kids that were born and growing up and now heading off to college. It's it's part of the big family side and the atmosphere that's always been nice about working as a client and getting to build those friendships and those relationships, as well as the opportunity to work with everybody now and do some different things.
When I started here, I was, marketing coordinator, and things were good. And I knew that I was working for a good, solid firm, and I knew that I had a good job. What I didn't realize, and it took till about a year in, was just how good I had it. And unfortunately, that came to me in an interesting way, where a certain confluence of events, where a personal tragedy sort of collided with my professional job, and the one day I had one of the partners approached me, and she said it was the passing of my dad, and she came up and she said, "How are you? How's your mom?" And I said, things are tough, and we've got some issues. And she stopped and just gave me this look. And she said, Fina, you need to realize that you have at your disposal 70 of the best attorneys in the state. Use them. And it was that day that sort of the professional and the personal came crashing together. And that was the day, I realized that this really is a family place. That this place will treat you as an equal. They'll treat you like you're important. They'll treat you like you're a sister, a mother, a friend. And at the same time, they treat you very professionally. They treat you the way that you want to be treated in the workplace.
Support here is great. In fact, I think that the best thing about McNees is the people here.
It's amazing how they'll come up and they're there for you. They'll back you up. I know when I've had several surgeries. I went through cancer, 6 months of chemo. The outpouring of support. The firm stuck by me the whole time. There was never a waiver of, never.
No.
She and I both lost family members while we've been here.
The support was outstanding.
I couldn't believe all the cards and stuff I got when my mom passed. It was unbelievable.
There are a lot of memories. I have several people that I remember very well. The first one would be Dot Bland. If you were here, she was a woman who was in charge of just about everything. Bless her heart, she had radar. You spoke her name and she came around the corner. So you pretty much knew that she was listening for you at that point. The MWN Quartet, something that very few people know anything about. There was Jody Brinley, there was Granger Bowman, David Lehman, and myself, and we were seasonal. We went around at Christmas time and sang Christmas carols to all of the different ends of the floors for McNees. Nobody told us to stop, so we we kept on going. Did that for quite a few years.
I've been here 13 and a half years and lost my husband about 8 years ago, and the firm was just tremendous. I mean, the support I got. And, financials all well and good, and it really helped me through a tough time because my husband was self-employed, but just the support. I mean, they are a family. They help you from something very minor. I've had little things in my life, but I could go to HR and they're there for you. They're here for us, And just the people at McNees, you just can't meet a nicer bunch of people. You just can't.
And it's,
wonderful.
As I said before, family. The word family is the honest to goodness truth.
I started to work here at the law firm in 1997, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to share this about the law firm. In 1997, I came in and applied for a job here on December the 9th. And that was probably, in my life, I would have to say it was probably the lowest point for me. And I came in and I applied for a job, which I really needed. And that was December 9th, and then that was at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I went home, and they called me at 2:33 in the afternoon and said, would you like to start work? And my whole life changed. So I'm always very loyal to the firm. It's a great place to work, and I love it here. I will never leave here. They've done so much for me.
In November of 1999, after I'd worked here 8 years, I was pregnant with my second child, and my house burnt down to the ground. And I lived in a townhouse and had no insurance. And everyone at McNees pulled all this money together, about $14,000. And I was able to restart my whole life because of them. And they would deliver like cars full of blankets and pillows and shampoo and toys for my son. I had a son at that time who was 8 years old. Just every day they would make food for the family until I was able to move into a new townhouse, obviously buy all new furniture and everything, and get back to work. So McNees is the greatest place to work ever. I love it here.